Internal Affairs, this is Detective Dominguez.
Hey, we found each other.
Oh, finally. How you doing?
Pretty good. I just missed your call.
Okay. So yeah, I was talking to our director here, and she gave me some paperwork, I guess, that you had sent. What can I do for you?
Well, I was filing a complaint because I'm a little concerned about the policies of the department and how they deal with lawfully armed citizens. Um, I am I'm the founder of Open Carry Texas, which is a gun rights group. So we secure the gun rights of Texans and ensure that their rights are being respected. And so Um, one of my members has sent me a video that he took of some harassment from El Paso Police Department officers, and I was pretty disappointed and a little shocked at how this guy was treated, and I just didn't think that it was something that I believe the department believes in, and so I filed a complaint about the conduct and was hoping that something would be done about it.
Okay, you filed a complaint. How did you? You're out of town, right?
I live in Temple.
In Temple, Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you file the complaint? Because we would need you to come here and provide us with a notarized statement.
No, well, I provided, as provided by law, I provided a signed written statement that of the incident. So
Okay. Were you there when the incident happened?
was I there? No.
Yes, sir. Okay, so you're not a witness, but you want to file a complaint on the way this person was treated. Has
I'm
this person
Go
has
ahead.
this person filed a complaint?
I believe so. I'm not sure.
So, because he would be the one, if it happened to him, he would be the complainant, and he would be the one that files the complaint.
Well,
Now,
anyone can file a complaint.
well, yes, and if you want to, the only thing is by our policy, we would need to have a notarized statement.
Well, and I understand that, and I spoke to the director, and
Right.
I respect that you guys have a policy, but I've done exactly what I'm required to do by law.
I understand, but the only thing is that when we confront these officers and we have to confront them with the complaint, we need to have it in writing, notarized, not just in writing and signed. In the event that they fight it or something, that they try to do down the line, and I'm not going to get into those details. I would let you talk to the director on that. But if that happens, it's just better and makes our case stronger having a notarized statement.
Well, and again, I don't want to. I'm not trying to be a hard ass or anything like that. I realize what probably some of the benefits would be for having a notarized statement, but here's my position, and I don't want it to sound combative.
Okay.
I'm just trying to be real. Um, when I ask for a government service as a taxpayer, I get exactly what the government is required to give me and nothing more. So when the government wants something from a taxpayer, my philosophy is I will give exactly what I'm required to by law and nothing more. And so that's where I'm coming from. And I do understand that a notarized statement, all that does is it's just saying this, my statement is true and whatever. But I'm not going to pay an extra tax, which is what I have to do to get something notarized, to file a complaint. And so I filed it. I made sure that I filed it in accordance with the law. I even put on there that this statement is true under penalty of perjury because I'm filing an official statement. I recognize that. And so all I want is for El Paso PD to treat it in accordance with the law, which instead of, I realize you guys have a policy, but a policy is not a law, and a policy doesn't affect
Right.
me as a citizen.
And I have to follow policy. I have to follow policy. So yes, I would need a notarized statement from you.
Well,
If I get a
detective,
notarized statement, I cannot proceed.
no, now see, now you're violating the law by not taking my
Well,
complaint.
I'm following what policies I have to follow here. You see, now if there's a problem with that, then you would have to take that up with our director.
Okay, then connect me to your director, because if you guys aren't going to take my complaint, then now I'm going to file another complaint against you for not taking my complaint. Because your
No, I'm
policy,
willing. I already told you, and I'm going to make it very clear, Mr. Grissom. I'm willing to take your complaint, but again, I have to ask for it to be notarized.
and you did ask, and I respectfully declined because I'm not required to by law.
Yeah, because you say you're going by federal law, but under Texas state
No.
law,
I'm going
you
to
have
state law. I'm going by state law.
you're going by state law then, and you're okay. So again, you need to do that. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, do you have the citation with you on that? And I'll look it up, and then I'll talk to her. But the thing
Yeah,
is, I'm just telling you, look, I work here. I'm not the director.
yeah.
I have to follow order.
Well, and I sent her the actual law in the email. I don't know if she forwarded you the email or just
Let me see here.
because we went back and forth on this as well.
I'm looking through the email. I'm looking through the emails here right now.
Okay. Yeah, and I actually quoted it for her. Yeah, I'm pulling up my computer here. Because there are two sections. One is whenever a complaint is filed, it has to have two things, and that is be in writing and be signed. And I'm still pulling it up. I'm not reading it right now. The second thing is
I'm
that
reading one of the government codes here. I think it's section 614.023. I think this is some of the paperwork you must have spent.
it probably is. And the second part is that when a complaint is issued against an officer, y'all are just required to provide that officer with a written copy of the complaint. So there's nowhere in there that says anything about notarization. It's just got to be signed.
Yeah. And that's what I'm looking at right now. I'm trying to go through these emails. I'm trying to let me put you on hold real quick, Mr. Grissom.
Okay.
Okay, just bear with me. I'm just reading through it. The
Sure.
way we get the way we get the emails, how would I say? It's not in the order that it prints up in. Might not be the order that they were actually being sent.
I got you. I've got it here now. If you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead and read it to me while I'm looking through this. So I can.
Sure. All right. So the Texas Government Code, which is okay. Here we go. 614.023 is the part that talks about where a copy of the complaint has to be given to the officer, and it has to be a copy of the signed complaint, whether it's an officer, a firefighter, whatever. So no disciplinary action can be taken unless there's a signed copy. Then, so that's what the officer receives.
That's the one I was looking at. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then before that, let me find my. Why isn't my email showing up here? Let me just look at the email chain. Okay, done. And I think it's 021, I believe, is the one I'm responding to. What the heck?
021. Okay, what is the section?
614.021.
Okay, wait, let me write that down.
For some reason, this
14.021.
Yes.
Okay. Let me see here. Alrighty. And then read that one to me.
It's pulling up right now. There we go. All right, 614. Nope, that wasn't it. Wait, why isn't this
Yeah.
showing up?
And I can see here on I'm looking at the email where I guess you had quoted the government code, but she's saying, and it says on here, and you probably have this, I'm sure you have received it. It says, "Sir, thank you for quoting the Texas government code."
Yes.
And you're correct with the citation. However, it is a practice of the El Paso Police Department to obtain sworn statements during an administrative investigation to avoid any type of legal misunderstanding with the following state laws.
Right.
Did you receive that?
Yes, I did. And here I'm sorry, 614-022 is, it wasn't, 022. And it's called complaint to be in writing and signed by complainant. Quote, to be considered by the head of a state agency or by the head of a fire department or a local police agency. The complaint must be 1, in writing, and 2, signed by the person making the complaint. That's it. That's the whole section. And then the next section says that a copy of the signed complaint against the law enforcement officer of this state or these other people shall be given to the officer or an employee within a reasonable amount of time. The complaint is filed. B, disciplinary action, blah, blah. C, so there's nothing in there anywhere in the code that says anything about a sworn statement or an affidavit.
Okay. And you've sent that, I believe, right?
Yeah, I sent a signed copy of it.
Okay. Then what we're going to do then is I'll get with him and we'll review it to see if you have a legal standing, because again, this didn't happen to you. If it happened to him, he would be the complainant, and of course he would be brought in and he would give a sworn statement. And then what happens then, the process then is the detective that the case is assigned to will then start talking to, witnesses, to the complainant, get the details of what happened. And of course, then they're going to end up talking eventually to the officers.
Right.
And they're going to have to explain why, questions would be formulated for them. They would have to explain what happened and why. And then at that point, it's presented to a disciplinary board.
Okay, well, one more thing to consider while y'all are talking about this is that there's absolutely no rule or law that I have to be a victim of a police officer's actions to file a complaint. I mean, if I see a police officer drop his drawers and urinate in public, it has nothing to do with me, but I can still file a complaint. If I see...
Well, no, in that case, you're actually a witness.
But I am a witness. I see a video of something that's going on, but a complaint is a complaint. I mean, it's not. I'm not required to be personally affected, but I am personally affected because this is a police department in the city in which I go to that has got what seems to me to be an attitude towards gun owners that is combative and oppressive.
Well, and again, we have to find out why the officers made contact, and that
I understand.
Investigation. There's many reasons that somebody could have gone up there. It could have been put out as a call, a man with a gun. Well, you know what? There's a lot of people that are not licensed to carry. So what happens then is the officers have to show up. They have to make contact. They have to ask, hey, are you licensed to carry this weapon? If they are and they show their credentials, no problem. If they're not, then of course that it's an infraction of the law, that they're breaking the law then, and I'm sure you're aware of that as well.
Yeah, and believe me, I'm a gun rights guy. We're a gun rights organization.
Yeah, and that's something that has to be looked at as to how or why they were there, what happened. Again, I'm not sure where this happened. I understand there was a lot of people around, perhaps.
Well, the main, I would say, other than because the facts right now have got to come out, and I filed an open records request for other information to find out why the cops showed up. One of my biggest complaints that I wrote about is the fact that the officers were, one, completely rude to a person who was not being aggressive, had not committed any crime, in the words of the cop himself. And the cop himself said he had broken no law, but he was just answering a call. And yet they kept him there for 30 minutes just because it was a call with a person.
The officer said that he broke the law?
No, he said he did not. He said, "What crime have I committed?" He said, "You haven't committed a crime." "Oh, then am I free to go?" "No, you're not free to go. You're being detained." "Well, for what law?" Well, and basically what it amounted to, and what I need to do, I will send you if you can send me an email, I will send you a link to the video of the incident.
I think you sent that already. Let me see.
Oh, I might have.
Yes, it's HTTPS.
Okay.
Yeah, it's under YouTube.com, and it says watch.
Yes.
And it's got some numbers on it.
So that's the video. And so that's the first issue I had, was that an officer openly admitted that the man hadn't committed any crime, and yet he was still being detained for over 30 minutes. The second issue I had is that a citizen was recording.
Was it an investigative detention?
What? But if an officer sits there and says you haven't broken any laws, if you are not suspected, if there's no reasonable suspicion or let me finish. If there's no reasonable suspicion or probable cause that a crime was or will be committed, then any detention is a consensual encounter. Now, if the officer said, we are investigating you because we got a call that you had a gun and we believe you may have pointed it at someone, that's a crime. There's articulable suspicion that a crime may have been committed. But that was not the case. The case was, it was a call, according to the officer, of a perfectly legitimate and legal activity. If a man's walking down the street and he's got a holstered handgun, and someone calls the police and says, hey, there's a guy walking down the street and he's got a gun in his holster, and the police show up, he can't detain them because the call was about a perfectly legal activity. Now, if the call said there's a guy walking down the road with a gun in his holster and he pulled it out and he's pointing at a gun at motorists, well, then you've got a reason to detain and do an investigation. Right.
No, and I understand what you're saying, but you got to understand the way a lot of people here are. I mean, a lot of people still aren't used to seeing somebody, wearing a sidearm.
And I get that. I get that, Detective. And I understand that we've been doing this for 18 months now, but law enforcement should know better, even if the people don't. Law enforcement should know better.
But if somebody calls, the officers are still going to have to respond. They're being dispatched out there. And that's what we have to look at to see, were they dispatched, what happened, or were they just driving by and they saw it? I don't have that information.
Right. So that's
you may be right in what you were saying to begin with, but at the same time, if he's just walking down the street, but somebody was alarmed by it and they call for whatever reason, then really the officers are responding to that concern. It could happen to you, let's say not with a gun, because since you're familiar with that. It could be anything else. Somebody parks in front of your house and they start parking at a certain time, and next thing you know, you say, well, you know what, there's been some burglaries here in the area. I'm going to call the police with it, on a suspicious subject. I mean, technically that person can argue the fact and say, hey, it's a free country. I can park wherever I want. It's on a public street. But yet you were concerned. Why? Because you're concerned because of your wife, your kids, and because, you might have some information that such and such neighbor might have had a problem, or somebody attempted or did break into their home. And really that's what the police are here for. You call us, we have to go out there and we have to check it out.
And again, I understand answering calls. That's my issue wasn't responding to a call. It was holding the guy for 30 minutes, even after telling him he didn't break any laws. And then the second thing,
for 30 minutes, and that's something that we would need to talk to him about.
Right.
Because he's the one that would have to explain. We would have to talk to him. Okay, what happened? What were the police talking to you about? What did they tell you? What were they asking you? And then again, we'd have to talk to the officers. Why did you do this? What were you asking? What was the reason for the detention? There's no time limit on an investigative detention, really, as far as we make contact, and it could be on a suspicious subject, in a high crime rate area. Or a high drug, you're going to stop, hey, what's going on, you see them acting suspiciously, looking into vehicles, and, that there's been burglary vehicles. You're going to stop them and maybe, okay, let's find out what's going on. You're going to check. Maybe you'll check a few cars just to make sure he hasn't gone into one of the cars. I mean, there's so many different scenarios when it comes to police work that it's really hard to say there's a set protocol pattern that you can say this is the way you handle every call. Well, it's like anything. You have to kind of customize it. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, and I get that. And the Supreme Court has ruled on the length of investigative detentions. And you can't just hold someone hoping to see that something's going on. If there's no crime that's being investigated, and the officer articulated that. The officer articulated that. He asked specifically, what crime am I suspected of being committed? You're not. We just got a call. Okay, then I'm free to go. No, you're not free to go. You're being detained. But you know as well as I do, detective, because I come from a law enforcement background. I just retired from law enforcement. If it's a reasonable suspicion, then you can detain. If it's probable cause, you can arrest.
Law enforcement, then you would know that as an officer, you get sent out on a call, you have to check it out. You're not just going to get there, okay, let it go and leave it alone.
No.
You have to say, sir, okay, well, we got a call. And again, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
But what I would do would be something like, sir, you have a little conversation. You know what? We had a call, this and that. What's going on? Did you do anything that you thought might have alarmed anybody?
Well, maybe
in such casual conversation, as a law enforcement officer, you can find out. I said, okay, so well, you know what? This is what happened. Just be careful. Have a good day. And
well, I don't know. I don't know what's different about law enforcement today, but back in the day, it used to be you would respond to a call. And even if it was a call about a perfectly legal activity, you would show up and tell the caller, okay, why'd you call? Well, there was a guy, and this was at Walmart. There was a guy who was shopping and he had a gun on him. Okay, well, sir, you realize that's not illegal, right? Did he do anything else? No, he didn't do anything else. Okay, have a great day. Sir, you're free to go. That's it. That's, but it's not only that, it's there's three elements to this that I have a problem with. One was the detention element. And that, of course, is something you guys have to investigate. I've already talked to Walmart, so I know exactly what the Walmart side of the story is, and that is that, no, a customer called, and it wasn't Walmart. But that's going to be something you figure out in your investigation. The second thing is that the officers were demanded to identify themselves. The individual specifically said, can I have your name and badge number? They refused to give him anything but a number. And, at least they gave him a badge number.
Yeah, they do have to identify themselves.
So they did not identify themselves on several occasions when asked. They only identified themselves by their badge numbers. That's another problem, and I think I wrote that in my complaint. And then the third thing is a citizen is trying to film a consensual encounter. Well, actually, it wasn't consensual, although it should have been. But a citizen is trying to film an encounter that he's having with a government entity, which is the El Paso Police Department. And the entire time, the officer is shining his flashlight in the camera. Not in the car, just to make sure he's keeping his hands in the camera. When he moved the camera, the officer moved the flashlight. And then at one point, he even turned on his strobe lights, his flashlight strobe, into the camera. That could have potentially caused seizures, depending on who you're strobing, who you're sending a strobe light to.
So you're saying it was into the camera.
It was into the camera.
So if it's into the camera, it's going to cause seizures on who?
Well, first, anyone that watches the video probably, but also you don't have to
watch the video is going to get a seizure because
you don't have to look straight into a strobe light to get a seizure. No, I can have a strobe light behind me if I'm prone to seizures, and that strobe light still can give people headaches or seizures. Right. Now, if you're saying it's perfectly fine for a police officer to flash a strobe light into a camera of a guy that's just peacefully recording, well, then that's a department problem that I probably need to file a complaint about. But those are the three issues that I have. The flashlight issue, where a police officer is trying to prevent himself from being lawfully recorded during an encounter with law enforcement. The Supreme Court has also ruled we have a First Amendment right to film government entities and law enforcement. The second one was just refusing to ID, and then the third one was continuing to detain a person after he's been informed he's committed no crimes.
Okay.
And I will get with the individual that sent me this incident and get him to call you guys as well and file a formal complaint on his behalf as well. I'm filing a complaint, I guess, based on behalf of society, but the practices, I'm worried that more people are going to be affected if this isn't addressed.
Well, we got your complaint here. I'll talk to my director, but like I said, the policy here, and it's always been for us to get a notarized statement. And if you're the person that was affected by this, if he's already come in and given a statement, I'm sure it was notarized, and he would have a legal standing because he was the one that was affected. You're saying you can file a complaint as a citizen, like any citizen can. Fine.
Yeah.
But do you have a legal standing in this case? How did it really affect you? Now, I will tell you the thing about them flashing the flashlight into the camera, again, that it can cause a seizure. That's just a what if. It's a can that happen? Maybe, maybe not.
No, it can happen.
Well, okay, but again, how do we prove that?
No, it didn't happen. I'm saying when you put a strobe light in people's faces, there are people, and I mean, good golly, this is common sense in medical.
Okay.
If strobe lights, there's a reason why they don't do music videos and some of these commercials the way they do anymore, because so many people were getting seizures from the flashing strobe lights.
Yeah, but it'd be like if I try to videotape somebody with my camera, and just the shock or fear of it in itself can cause them to have some kind of a medical condition. You see, it's kind of like the same thing.
What? Someone filming you could cause you to have a medical condition?
Well,
see, now we're being absurd.
To cause a medical condition. See, it's
okay, but
that we can talk about. Those are things that we can go back and forth with.
Well, then let's do that. Let's go back and forth with that. If someone if filming somebody causes people to have a heart attack, should it be the policy of the police department to film people?
But who was filming here? It was the person filming the
officer. No. I'm going by your logic. You said that you're trying to say that the strobe light thing isn't a big deal because what if somebody gets a heart attack just from you filming? Well, let's go with that.
I'm giving you an example. I'm saying because you're saying that because somebody was using a strobe light, that it could cause someone to have a seizure. So I'm saying, well, it can easily be said also that by a camera. It can also be said, what if there was a lady walking by, she sees a gun, she's had a traumatic experience in the past, she sees somebody wearing a gun, and boom, next thing you know, she drops.
We are talking about passive versus active measures.
There's many little examples.
No, but you're talking about a passive thing. I'm talking about an active thing. I'm talking about an active, willful act.
I'm not trying to be combative with you. I'm not trying to be argumentative with you. I'm just telling you, in conversation, you see, all this can go many ways. And like I said, we've got your complaint. Let us look into it. Let us see what we've got here. And like I explained to you, we have to talk to everybody who was involved.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to get to the bottom of this. And you say you were a law enforcement officer before. Where were you a law enforcement officer before that?
I was in the Army. I was a special agent in the Army. I handled national security crimes. I investigated national security crimes.
Okay, national security crimes. Okay. I don't know if that would be the same as being a police officer out on the
street. Okay, all right. Look, I'm not going to dick measure with you about who's the better police officer here.
No, you don't have to talk that way. We're not here like you're bringing up this dick measure stuff.
Well, yeah, but don't sit here and try to minimize my law enforcement experience with yours.
I'm being professional with you. And
okay. Well, you're not being professional if you're going to try and measure your law enforcement experience with mine.
This company and this organization. I'm not talking to you that way. I'm just giving you examples. I already told you, we're going to investigate. We're going to look at this thing and see what we've got. And if there's something there, believe me, we're going to go after it. Okay? And that's why we also have a disciplinary board.
Yes.
But there's no reason for you to get all upset and bent out of shape.
No, I'm getting upset because
I am not talking to you that way. I would expect you not to talk that way to me either.
Okay, look, when you're bringing up what kind of a law enforcement officer I am, that has no bearing on anything, detective.
What kind of like you were a law enforcement officer in the past? Like that.
So now you're going to question what my professional experience is and my history. So that's where we've gotten, and you're sitting here talking about respect. That's where I got offline, was because you started questioning my experience about law enforcement. That somehow my experience, even though I had to quote you on what state law was. You said, I don't know what if you've ever been a police officer. So that's where this got offline.
Tell me, Mr. Grisham, tell me.
Tell you what?
What you're going to say.
I've said what I've got to say.
Okay, so then we're done. Let us look into it, and then you'll be notified.
All right. Well, thank you, and I look forward to figuring out what happened.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Bye.